Himalayas. It is in news, right? And if you see the PYQs, twice it was asked in geography GS1, right? Yeah, just a moment. Okay, so twice it was asked in geography. They are yet to ask in disaster management. So we are covering this particular topic from both. So whenever question is asked from geography, it is natural hazard. What is the syllabus topic? It is natural hazard, right? And when the question is asked in disaster management, so largely the management of that disaster. So here the consequences, and we can say that how to mitigate the impact of that particular hazard. So a disaster. So that is more focused there. Although UPSC has asked both aspects alternatively in GS1 and 3. Like for example, what they have asked the cloudburst phenomenon and its mechanism. Explain the mechanism of cloudburst in GS3. Rather, it is purely geographical phenomenon. They asked the mechanism there, not the mitigation aspect. So that becomes the geography question actually, but they asked in GS3. And this year's 2022 mains, they asked color coding system for cyclone management, early warning system in GS1 geography, but that is part of disaster management. So इससे क्या समझ में आ रहा है? What we are understanding from this? It can be asked in GS1 or 3 anyway, and we have to cover the causes aspect, impact aspect, and the mitigation aspect. Okay, so simultaneously we should prepare. Isolation में नहीं पढ़ना है, right? So yes, recently in Himachal Pradesh, yes, in Shimla and Kullu district of Himachal Pradesh, the severe landslides are happening. It is continuously happening, and the red color coded warning has been given, and there can be further landslides in that particular region. Also, the landslides in recent past in different part of the country, if you remember in Maharashtra, one of the district in the Western Ghats, तो वहाँ पे एक पूरा village ही पूरा धस गया था under the landslide. So you should remember some variety of example. Uttarakhand, common example for landslide. Himachal Pradesh, common example. But if you mention the Sikkim, recently in Sikkim also there was landslide. In Manipur also there were landslide. In Darjeeling also there were landslides. So you should be knowing variety of examples. So that actually enriches our answer. So this is basically the context. So what we'll do, let's first try to see the agenda. Context. Thereafter we'll try to understand the specific reasons for landslides in Himachal Pradesh. A recent, let's say, landslides happening in the Western Himalayas. Specific reasons are also there. Then common reasons, or we can say general reasons for all kinds of landslides throughout Himalayan region. Thereafter, impact. In between, we will also try to understand the vulnerability of India in landslide. What are the measures in place? What government is doing or the authorities are doing, and the way forward. Mitigation aspect, right? Prevention, mitigation aspect will occur in the end. Context, just now I told you, in Himachal Pradesh and in different parts of the country, Shimla and Kullu districts. So Kullu Mandi, that stretch of highway that connects to Manali, and further the Spiti Valley. So all that highway was actually closed due to this landslide there. And you should know that such kind of landslides that are happening there, they are unique. Why? Because Uttarakhand is actually having this recurrent landslides. Himachal Pradesh is having well developed infrastructure comparatively. Now let's try to understand the specific reasons for this particular landslide that are happening here. So two reasons you can mention. First is the natural aspect, natural reason. some natural factors have coincided. So combined effect of, we can say that, monsoon plus western disturbances, combined effect. Now you may be thinking, we generally know that western disturbances is the winter phenomenon in India, but you should know that yes, rarely it also extends into summer. And this year what had happened is it extended into summer, and the monsoon effect, what happens is there is more excess rainfall when, we can say that, the area falls under the monsoon trough. Okay, monsoon trough is basically the low pressure axis that actually oscillates over Indian subcontinent. Generally, if you talk from the let's say peninsula perspective, ये trough ऐसे होता है. Okay, northwest to this West Bengal and this region, monsoon trough, and this vibrates like this. Okay, so recently what had happened, it shifted to north. So whenever it shifts at some place, north or south, all this cloud bearing system also shifts and it yields more rainfall. Okay, so as it shifted to the north over the Himalayan region, it yielded more rainfall. Along with that, the depressions that are brought by, low pressure depressions brought by the western disturbances, so combined effect result into excess rainfall. In less time period, we can say it resulted into cloud burst, flash floods, and landslides. Of course, there is anthropogenic causes, man-made causes. The second part you should be mentioning that man-made reasons. So of course you can mention here the unsustainable construction activities. Okay, construction, you can mention the prominent ones, the road construction. Thereafter, the hydropower projects, dams, large hydro projects. Thereafter, you can mention about the residential infrastructure for tourism purpose and all these things. So unsustainable tourism practices also. Unsustainable tourism practices, this is one of the reason. Thereafter, for construction of all this infrastructure, there is clearing of forest, so deforestation is also there. Yes, the common reasons, man-made reasons we talk about, all you can mention in Himachal Pradesh. Okay, there was this question also, how we can say that unsustainable tourism practices are leading to problems in Himalayan region. ऐसा एक geography में एक question आया हुआ था GS1 में, if you remember PYQs. So that you should connect with the landslide aspect. Okay, so that question you can connect with the landslide aspect. So yes, natural and man-made, you divide in the structure. Now these were specific to Himachal Pradesh, but if we talk from the general perspective, whatever the landslides that are happening, what were the two questions related to landslide? Why more landslides are there in Himalayas as compared to Western Ghats? दो बार ऐसा क्वेश्चन आ चुका है, ठीक है. So you should be knowing the reasons. It is given in NCERT. So quickly we'll go through this. Okay, reasons. But before that, let me also tell you some facts here about vulnerability. So इससे आपको थोड़ा सा और idea. Vulnerability. So talking from the vulnerability, you should know that around 12.5% of total land of India is vulnerable for landslide. You can use that in your answer. Facts, basic points कैसे लिखने रहते हैं, आप आंसर लिख रहे हैं, राइट में एक बॉक्स बनाइए, वहां पे मेंशन करिए highlight of the answer. Okay, yes, of course they should be factually correct. Data जो होना चाहिए वो factually correct होना चाहिए. 12.5% of the land, then we can say among the top 5 countries in the world in terms of landslide prone countries, among the top 5 prone countries, vulnerable countries. Talking from the vulnerability of different regions, ठीक है, different regions के अगर बात करते हैं तो सबसे ज्यादा कहां पर है, around we can say that 67% northwest Himalayas, then 19% जो है आपका नॉर्थ ईस्ट Himalayas and the hilly region, how much is remaining? 14%, right? 14% it is Western Ghats. ऐसे आप facts लिख सकते हैं आंसर में, right? Okay, so after writing this, now let's talk about how more in Western Himalayas, Northwest, this region, है ना? जब ये हम लिखते हैं आंसर तो आप ये फैक्ट लिख सकते हैं यहाँ पर, why more, that can be introduction itself, ठीक है, right? So first of all we will categorize it as natural and anthropogenic or man-made. Okay, so go on mentioning whatever given in NCERT. First of all we can mention the topography of the region, है ना? Try to give subheadings. Topography, so from topography what we can mention is steep slopes. So Himalayas are fold mountains. Okay, so fold mountains, steep slopes, steep sides are there. So we can say that is one of the factor, and that result into more proneness, we can say. Thereafter we can mention tectonically active region. Tectonically active region, so it falls under zone, which zones? Zone 4 and 5, ठीक है? So there are 4 zones. Earthquake अगर हम देखते हैं तो seismic zones, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4 and zone 5. BIS, Bureau of Indian Standard ने किया हुआ जो क्लासिफिकेशन है, zonation. So 4 and 5 में बहुत सारा region है ये नॉर्थ वेस्ट का. So we can mention that tectonically active and that may result into landslide. Then we can talk about the material, the rocks, rock types. So they are loosely attached sedimentary rocks. Loosely attached sedimentary rocks. So you can mention that. Then we can say that the fast flowing rivers, and they are perennial rivers in Himalayas. So they are continuously undercutting the slopes. So when there is lack of support to the material that is lying above, and when the support is removed by these rivers, what happens is it will come down because of slope instability. Okay, slope instability. So fast flowing rivers. Similarly, what happens in Western Ghats? Okay, so there is excess rainfall along the western slopes of Western Ghats during the 4 months of monsoon, and that is one of the factor we can say that the kind of landslides that happen in Western Ghats. You can mention that specifically here. Okay, so excess rainfall in monsoon, Western Ghats, and here itself you can mention flash floods, or sorry, cloud burst in Himalayas, Northwest Himalayas especially. So excess rainfall, that is also one of the reason. Okay, so natural reasons you can mention like this. All right, now man-made, there are many reasons here. Again, you can talk about construction activities, roads, we can say homes, hotels, residential aspect. Then you can mention here dams, hydro projects, large dams and hydro projects, or we can say that the tunnels, bridges, जो बड़ा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर होता है तो उसके लिए बहुत ज़्यादा ये क्या करता है, they are actually continuously changing the slope, ठीक है, they are changing the slope aspects there. So then we can mention the deforestation aspect. For construction of all this, they are doing the deforestation. So because of deforestation, again, whatever the land or soil that is being held by the we can say that trees, और ज़्यादा vulnerable कर देता है ये, right? Then what we can mention further here, unsustainable tourism practices, unsustainable tourism practices. Then what we can mention here? Climate change. You mentioned this in anthropogenic, although in that booklet that we are providing, it is mentioned in, we can say, natural, but वो anthropogenic है. The present climate change is largely attributed for anthropogenic activities, है ना? Okay, so yes, decrease in vegetation you can mention, so that is not natural cause. See, decrease. Dense vegetation cover in northwest Himalayas also natural cause. See, that is not the cause for dense vegetation is not the cause. It is good always. ठीक है. Rather deforestation being carried out by human activities, तो वो हम बोल सकते हैं climate change. And because of climate change, what is happening? Changes in rainfall pattern. So frequent cloud bursts. You mentioned that here. Frequency of cloud burst is increasing, so that is making it more vulnerable. Frequency of cloud burst making it more vulnerable. Fine. So major points you can mention like this. Okay, fine. Now let's talk about the next aspect. What is that? Impact. Okay, so of course, loss of human life, loss of cattle, animals, flora, we can say. Thereafter, we can say economic loss, right? Economic loss. So here you can mention damage to infrastructure, be it roads, dams, hydro projects, or residential houses. Okay, so all these are damage, economic loss. The burden lies with people or government, ultimately with the people. Okay, impact. Further, you should know that landslide many times result into, blocking of rivers, blocking of river course, or change in the river course. This may result into floods. This may result into flash floods. मतलब जहाँ पे पानी आना नहीं चाहिए था वो रिवर का, वहाँ पे सारा इतना पानी बहुत सारा आ जाता है, right? So that may result into flash floods. Okay, in natural causes you can also mention snow avalanche. Okay, snow avalanche or glacial lake outburst flood. Sudden volume of let's say water is flowing through that channel. Because of that also the undercutting and landslide may happen. Okay, this impact, this is unique aspect. It is not, we can say, prominent. It is rare phenomenon, but it happens. Then landslides, what you can mention in impact further? Loss of communication. See, generally what happens in mountainous region, already there are very less connectivity. There is less connectivity. एक ही रोड हाईवे जा रहा है पूरा, उसी से आर्टेरियल जो भी रोड्स कनेक्टेड है, बस अगर वो हाईवे ही क्लोज हो जाता है एक दो दिन के लिए, यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड द सप्लाई ऑफ इसेंशियल गुड्स टू दोज लिविंग इन द अपर रीचेस, दैट बिकम्स प्रॉब्लम. लॉस ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन. सो सप्लाई ऑफ इसेंशियल बेसिक आइटम्स, that is actually okay. So all these things you can mention here, and fine. So after that you can talk about now what government is doing, what measures are in place. Yes, so here let me show that in this one page note that I am giving every time for every topic that we are discussing. Okay, so you can see here the reasons for recent landslides, the vulnerability, the facts we have mentioned just now, and then there is general reasons. Okay, natural, man-made, the impact aspect. One more thing you can mention here, forced migration and all, because the complete livelihood is lost there because of that. Now measures being taken. Measures that are being taken, the first one you should know that there is already landslide zonation maps are there. Okay, hazard zonation maps. This is part of pre-disaster, we can say management or preparedness aspect, zonation maps. And when there is high vulnerability of particular region, more care can be taken for the mitigation aspect or timely warning can be given. So landslide hazard zonation maps have been prepared by NDMA and accordingly the measures are being taken. National Landslide Risk Management Strategy 2019. Okay, National Landslide Risk Management Strategy 2019. So basically this strategy specifically focuses on management of this landslide risk. Okay, so that means it talks about how to deal with the so it talks about pre-disaster, during disaster. We will talk in way forward like this only, and post-disaster, the disaster management cycle. Whatever the landslide risk is there, so largely focus will be pre-disaster because we want to manage the risk. We want to reduce the impact of landslide. We cannot restrict it. No, natural causes are also there. We cannot restrict that. That is natural hazard. ठीक है, तो ये सारे चीज आपको पता है. ठीक है. Yes, all right. Now let's talk about the next. Landslide Atlas of India was recently released by ISRO 2023. Okay, I will show that to you. 2023. Okay. This is the map given by ISRO. And this map is actually the landslide inventory of 1992 to 2022. Okay, so you can see the concentration of this yellow color. Okay, more concentrated in this region and then this region, and then you can see this region. You have provided this in booklet. Okay, along with that you can also see the other map. Landslide zonation map. Okay, so very high hazard. So very high hazard, you can see this region is there, Jammu and Kashmir, and some regions of this Darjeeling and Sikkim region, then Arunachal Pradesh and some northeastern states. High hazard, you can see most of the Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand comes under high hazard. Okay, most of the area you can see this region, and remaining part of Arunachal Pradesh, and then moderately affected or a high hazard. So you can see Shivalik, the first hills, Shivalik range, that region, and here you can see Meghalaya region, Meghalaya plateau. Okay, and moderately risk, you can see all the Western Ghats and some part of Eastern Ghat also, moderate. Okay, the low hazard remaining part, the let's say this Ladakh and that region, तो वहाँ पे नहीं है क्योंकि वहाँ पे रेनफॉल नहीं है या किसी भी तरीके का एक्टिविटी कंस्ट्रक्शन वाला इतना नहीं है. ठीक है, तो we can say that that is low hazard at present. Accordingly, either of the map you can draw. Basically, when you draw the map, simply show the zonation, and there itself you mention that fact, like 64%, 19%, 14%. यहाँ पे mention कर दो. That is actually more effective. Fine. Okay. Now let's talk about the way forward here. Okay, I was talking about the remaining aspect. Landslide Atlas of India 2023. You mentioned that for sure because that is going to help for mitigation. Now, what is this? LEWS, Landslide Early Warning System. Now, this is being tested on pilot basis by IMD. This is being tested on pilot basis in two areas. One, Darjeeling, West Bengal, and second, Nilgiri district, Tamil Nadu. Okay. Remember this. Pilot basis, it is being implemented, landslide early warning system. And if it is successful, so it will be implemented in remaining all landslide prone areas of the country. Then of course relief funds measures are there under we can say National Disaster Management Act or Disaster Management Act of 2005. The statutory provisions are there of National Disaster Relief Fund and then State Disaster Relief Fund. So relief funds are there. So under these funds, basically those who are affected, suppose the life or people are, let's say, having some impact because of landslide, or we can say that they are losing on livelihood because of landslide, or their homes are destructed because of landslide. All these things are considered for relief fund here. Fine. Now what should be the way forward? Now in such situations, what happens is the focus should be completely on pre-disaster management. The more you focus on pre-disaster aspect, the less impact will be there of this landslide. Just now I told you it is not preventable disaster, we can say, or hazard. So focus should be on mitigation aspect, reducing the impact, and that can be done by effective preparedness aspect. Preparedness, pre-disaster, it involves preparedness, it involves mitigation, it involves even adaptation, and along with that it also focuses on early warning system aspect. Okay. So yes, hazard reduction, risk reduction जिसको हम बोलते हैं, disaster risk reduction, DRR is the key term, यहाँ पे आनी चाहिए, disaster risk reduction. Sendai framework, disaster risk reduction, it talks about disaster risk reduction, right? Sendai framework, basically how we can reduce that risk. Landslide hazard zonation map, pinpointedly understanding which is more vulnerable, which is less vulnerable area. Accordingly the resources should be mobilized and we can say measures should be taken. What measures? These measures: afforestation, risk management aspect, that strategy we talked about in 2019 it was launched. So it involves, like, whenever let's say there is more vulnerable area, so there should be afforestation activities by involving the local community. Then restriction on the development on landslide prone areas. Then mountain zone regulations should be there, like similar to coastal regulation zones. CRZ is there, no? So similarly mountain zone regulation should be also devised. Then monitoring, continuous monitoring and early warning system. Okay. Like for example, IMD is continuously monitoring the rainfall aspect. Okay, so once it is understood that next 24 hours, 48 hours, there can be excess rainfall in a particular region, so local resources, administration can mobilize them. People can be evacuated, all these things can be done. Okay, but at present, the early warning system, it is not developed similar to cyclone. We have very good, well developed early warning system for cyclone, and that's why in last 20 years we are able to reduce the loss of life and property significantly for cyclone, but not for this landslide. So focus should be on this. Way forward में आपको ये बताना है कि ये इस पे ज़्यादा focus होना चाहिए. Then during disaster only two things that should be focused, and that is rescue and relief. Okay, in rescue and relief, or even we can say once the warning is given, so they can be evacuated from the region in beforehand itself. Okay, so evacuation, rescue and relief, and yes, color coded warning system by IMD. 12 घंटे पहले, 24 घंटे पहले वो warning भी देते हैं, तो evacuation is easy when such warning is given. Then food, medicine and shelter. So ensuring the supplies of essentials in the shelter homes or relief camps. So that is part of relief. Okay. Then emergency communication. Because of landslide, what happens is there can be failure of power lines, telecommunication lines. Okay. And because of that, there can be complete a gap in the communication. There can be situation of chaos. Okay. So there should be immediate alternate communication system should be in place. and this is very important, emergency communication. Then post disaster, so it is common to most of the disasters, post disaster aspect. ठीक है, आपको एग्जाम में भी इसी तरीके से समझना है. ये दो जनरली बहुत कॉमन होते हैं सारे डिजास्टर के लिए, बट ये डिजास्टर स्पेसिफिक होता है. ओके, सो व्हाट इज दैट कॉमन हियर? यस, रीलोकेशन, रिहैबिलिटेशन, ensuring social security. Okay, so relocation, immediately it should be focused relocation, because yes, their houses are completely damaged, or we can say their livelihood is gone, they cannot survive there, so they have to be shifted to other place. Relocation. So relocation is not going to be sufficient, so there should be rehabilitation. What is the difference between these two? Yes, settlement patterns. Yes, of course we can mention development plans needs to be rethink. ये आप conclusion में लिखिएगा जो broader aspects है विजय. So yes, of course you should write in conclusion futuristic aspect. So basically you talk about sustainable development, and we can talk about like focusing on small hydro projects instead of large hydro projects for development aspect. Decentralized projects जिसको हम बोलते हैं, decentralized development, and yes, sustainable टूरिज्म प्रैक्टिसेस. ये सारा चीज आप बाद में बोल सकते हैं, ठीक है. बट हियर रिहैबिलिटेशन, रिलोकेशन, क्या डिफरेंस है दोनों में? Very good. So it is a long term process. You can say rehabilitation means integrating them into the mainstream society, and it is very difficult when they are shifted from one place to other place. Means that they are leaving the place, they were living there for centuries. वहाँ पे उनके generations to generations वो वहाँ पे रह रहे हैं, अचानक से उनको वो जगह छोड़ के नई जगह पे जाना पड़ रहा है. It is very difficult to integrate and live in the new place. So ensuring that livelihood support, other facilities like health, education and all the basic facilities, social security measures, that will result into, we can say, appropriate rehabilitation. ये सारे ही डिजास्टर्स के लिए आप मेंशन कर सकते हैं, ठीक है. यस अनंत, राइट, दैट इज ट्रू. ओके, नाउ यू हैव अंडरस्टूड दिस पोस्ट डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट aspect. Capacity building and research and development. Here in pre-disaster, capacity building of whom? Those who are involved in disaster management machinery, unka capacity building. And second, the people who are living there, they are also important stakeholder in management of disaster. ठीक है, तो those who are taking decision by sitting in offices in New Delhi, वो इतना इम्पैक्ट नहीं कर सकते जो लोकल कम्युनिटी कर सकता है डिजास्टर, क्योंकि अर्ली आवर्स आफ्टर डिजास्टर दे आर वेरी क्रिटिकल टू सेव द लाइव्स ऑफ द पीपल. एक बार 12 घंटे 24 घंटे बीत गए, उसके बाद में बहुत मुश्किल है बचाना. सो इन दैट, how local community can help, so strengthening their capacity to deal with such things, and they are already aware because they know their local topography and all these things, features, so they are very much aware about such kind of things. ठीक है. Yes, slope stabilization measures, you can talk about afforestation is there, or you can also mention terrace farming, promotion of terrace farming, contour bunding जो हम पढ़ते हैं ना, तो सॉइल इरोजन वाले मेजर्स जिसको हम बोलते हैं, ठीक है, प्रिवेंटिंग सॉइल इरोजन, सेम मेजर्स यू मेंशन हियर आल्सो. स्लोप स्टेबलाइजेशन. And then you can talk about the fencing aspect that is done in the Western Ghats generally to avoid falling off all those rocks. Rock slide जिसको बोलते हैं ना, वहाँ पे वेस्टर्न घाट्स में क्या होता है, हाईवे पे डायरेक्ट ऊपर से बड़ा रॉक गिरता है, तो उससे के लिए क्या कर सकते हैं, फेंसिंग किया जाता है, एक्चुअली मेटल फेंसिंग. ठीक है, तो उससे वो रॉक्स नीचे नहीं आएंगे डायरेक्टली. ओके, सो बट दैट इज डन वेयर देयर इज एक्सेस रेनफॉल, रेनफॉल इंड्यूस्ड लैंडस्लाइड जिसको बोलते हैं, तो वहां पे वो सारा चीज. ओके, सो एट प्रेजेंट इट इज इन न्यूज. व्हाई? बिकॉज गवर्नमेंट ऑन वन हैंड इज कंटिन्यूअसली फोकसिंग ऑन डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट्स, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्रोजेक्ट्स. यू मेंशन चारधाम, यू मेंशन टनल्स, different tunnels, mention railroad bridges that are continuously built, and hydro projects. इतनी सारी एक्टिविटीज चल रही है, एंड ऑन अदर हैंड हु इज द विक्टिम? पीपल. ठीक है, एंड गवर्नमेंट इज डूइंग ऑल दिस एक्टिविटीज फॉर डेवलपमेंट ऑफ हुम? these people. ठीक है, तो yes, there should be larger debate on this, of course, but as a student, ठीक है, आपको ये सारी चीजें लिखनी है. Any question? ठीक है. See, again I'm repeating, disaster management का अपना अपना एक terminology, हर एक subject का अपना अपना एक terminology, right? So using that terms in the answer will fetch you more marks. When the question is from the disaster management aspect, you talk like this: risk management, hazard zonation, risk reduction, and pre-disaster, during disaster, post-disaster. You should write way forward like this. बहुत कम स्टूडेंट्स को ये पता है कि वे फॉरवर्ड इस तरीके से लिखना है हर डिजास्टर के लिए. एंड आई टोल्ड यू दिस इज मोर डिजास्टर स्पेसिफिक, दिस इज कॉमन टू ऑल डिजास्टर. ठीक है, फाइन देन, लेट अस स्टॉप देन. यस शिवा, एनी क्वेश्चन? ओके फाइन. ओके ऑनलाइन स्टूडेंट्स, वेल थैंक यू. अनंत, fine. Okay, let us stop then.